All right, we're back with another episode of the Believe You Can podcast. My guest today, coming off a rather unique training camp with one of the UFC's most polarizing fighters, Mike Perry, also actively training at Jackson Wink's MMA. He's a 2-1 amateur MMA fighter that made a switch to MMA at just 18 years old after chasing his dreams for playing NCAA football for Oklahoma State. He fell short due to NCAA banning him from competing because he had 3 heart surgeries and 2 collapsed lungs at a very young age, and he reinvented his competitive lifestyle through the sport of mixed martial arts. So without further ado, today is MMA fighter Cade Smith. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Well, I'm honored to be on this show. It's my first podcast, so I might mess up here and there, but man, like I said, I'm more than honored, and I'm glad to share some of my stories in the MMA world, some of my stories with the football world, and some of the hardships I've been through. I've trained with a couple of the highest named fighters in the world, and I've got some interesting stories on both, and got some great training stories as well, and I can't wait to share them.
Hell yeah. I really appreciate you doing the show, but I've tons of questions to go through, especially with your life story and your experience in martial arts. But we'll start with the Mike Perry stuff, which is probably what most people want to hear about. So now.
So hell yeah.
Yeah. What was the experience like for you in such a unique style training camp where there was only 3 or 4 people? And
yeah, there was actually just about 3 of us. His girlfriend Latori, she was always she was at most of our training sessions, kind of hanging out and doing her own thing. She actually can hold mitts real well. She was a personal trainer at Nick's Fight Club. She does some cardio boxing sessions with a bunch of girls as well as her friends, so she can actually hold mitts. She can hold mitts for some actually decent fighters, so it's kind of interesting to see that. But as far as Mike's training camp goes, it was me, my brother Zach. He's an up-and-coming MMA fighter. He tore his labrum in his biceps, so he's waiting to make his MMA debut. But he'll put some he'll shock some people. He makes his debut. But yeah, it was just us 3, me, Zach, and Mike. And I've known Mike for about 2 years now. I met him at Jackson Wink. He was actually the first person I sparred with at Jackson Wink when I first went over there. I was about 19 years old. And I was working with him, and when Frank Lester was over there, I was working with him and Frank. And when me and Mike were sparring, he liked how I moved. He was fighting Cowboy at the time, and so he said, keep going. And so we kept going, and then we actually went past the break rounds, and we went like 15 total minutes, and he was like, dang, dude, you're really skilled for how you move around. You use your length real well. I'm going to use you for some of my camps. And I was really excited, me being a young MMA fighter, had just started training. I had some real good coaches that actually helped me get to that point. But, yeah, Mike was the first person I sparred with at Jackson Wink, and he liked the way that I moved around as far as kickboxing goes. So we kind of started off there, and then from there we've had a real good friendship. And his girlfriend he actually met in Albuquerque. And so she goes to school at Texas Tech. And so I transferred to Texas Tech with my brother. He played football at Texas Tech after he transferred from Oklahoma State, and he played there for another year. Meanwhile, I started training MMA. I actually trained a little bit in Oklahoma City when I played at Oklahoma State and over at Edmond and American Elite. And that's where I kind of got my start in MMA. And so when I moved to Lubbock, I had my MMA debut, and luckily I got a 15 or 30-second knockout on my MMA debut. It was a submission choke. He went unconscious, and so I didn't really train too much before that first fight. You know how the first MMA fights go, but I was an athlete, and so luckily I knew how to fight. I was athletic. I feel like I'm a dog. I'm not really going to go out of a fight ever. I don't think I'll ever really get finished. And so that's kind of what I went into the fight. And first 2 fights were under a minute knockouts, and then that's what got my start. And so I got accepted into Jackson Wink, and that's how I met Mike. And so more on the Mike stuff, he ended up leaving Florida. Him and his old wife, they split and did their own thing. I'm not going to talk about that stuff. And so anyways, his new girlfriend, she's a real cool girl. Her name's Latori, and she's real positive with Mike, and she pushes Mike, and it's really interesting to see a couple like that. And they're really a power couple. And so when Mike came to Lubbock, he messaged me on Instagram a video of him. And so I was like, oh, what the hell? Why is he in Lubbock? So next day, instantly we started training. He started talking about Darren Till, and I'm a southpaw. I'm 6'4". I'm about 205 pounds right now, so I'm about Darren Till's size. And so a lot of people call me Darren Till when I walk into gyms and shit, just fucking with me. And so, so I started training with Mike because that's obviously who was on his hit list at the time. And then he started mentioning Mickey Gall, and that's when we were like, oh man, like, that's an easy one, you know. If you're fighting,
That's an easy one.
You're getting ready to fight Darren Till, and you switch down to Mickey Gall. And so we both trained with Diego, you know, and at Jackson Wink, and Diego mopped, you know, he mopped Mickey. Everyone knew that, so we weren't really too concerned. And so we just started from there. Man, we put in some work. All the injury, just from that camp, I had, not from him, but from my brother as well. I had a dislocated elbow, broken nose. We both had, you know, sprains, cuts, bruises, but man, it wasn't like a normal camp. We didn't have a class setting. It was, hey man, I'm going to the gym. Let's get some work in. And when we got there, we really put some work in. It wasn't like a coach was watching us. It was like we emptied the tank right then and there. It wasn't like we did some warm-ups and did all that.
Yeah, that was my next question. I was going to, because you got to train at Jackson Wink with a lot of you got to have top level coaches overseeing it. Like, how was it different for you having like Mike Perry kind of look over the structure of everything instead of a coach?
Well, I trust Mike. You know, he's the highest level fighter. He's beat the names of names in MMA. He's done it all. And so I'm upcoming MMA fighter. I have to listen to guys that have done it. I have to listen to guys like him. He's a badass motherfucker. You know, he beats my ass. I'm way bigger than him. I mean, I'll get some stuff here and there on him, but for the most part, he throws me around. But we get some good work in, man. And I feel like I really pushed him this camp. And me being young and me being hungry helped him get to that point. But
I feel like I feel like he is like the only guy in MMA, one of the only guys, like Nate Diaz, those type of people, they might be able to pull it off, but he is like the only guy I feel that's like could be like, okay, I'm nixing everything and I'm doing it myself, because he is just that guy that even before he left Jackson and stuff, he said he would always say like, shut up in the corner, like I'm sitting here trying to go, and you're telling me to punch. Like,
he's real, man. He says what everyone wants to hear. He says what's on his mind. He's not going to sit there and try to cover it up just for a certain crowd of people. He's going to say what he wants to say. And another thing on the training difference between that and Jackson Wink. Jackson Wink, it's real good training. It's not like most gyms, you know, like most gyms, they have like the schedule and then you go. Jackson Wink is it's real loose for the fighters. And so you get there, you do your warm-ups like sparring. You get there, you warm up, and then you kind of slowly get into sparring. And then it's not like you have to do everything perfect. Like, of course, like striking classes, we'll do like combos and stuff like that and work on all that stuff. And then ground classes, we'll do like drills and we'll work on technique. But as far as sparring goes, it's pretty open, and I like that in the sense a lot of gyms are pretty strict on. A lot of coaches like to do it their way, but Jackson Wink has a whole group of coaches, and they run things pretty smoothly over there, and I like the way that it goes. But with Mike, it was more like we would just hit each other up in the morning and then be like, hey, let's go to the gym. And then the gym was 5 minutes away from our house. We'd go over there, and both of us would just, me and Zach, my brother, we'd all get some good work in. And then, we'd stretch and warm up, but it wasn't like, you know, the boring stretches and all that. It was like real stuff that we were going to use and stuff that actually works. And we did a lot of drilling, not too much combo work. It was more flow work. Him coming off the punches, parrying combos right there. No set combos, just seeing things at a distance, walking into the distance, jabs. Worked his southpaw. He switched to southpaw a lot this fight. People didn't see that, but he was switching to southpaw a lot and got out of Mickey's range and completely dominated Mickey on the ground. We brought in Tyler Derringer. He's an Oklahoma State former wrestler. His brother Alex Derringer won the Hodge Trophy at NCAA. Top wrestler in the world, one of them. And
I think that's what shocked a lot of fans in this fight, because everyone said it's striker versus grappler, and then he came out and dominated. It was shocking to even me, because I mean, I've seen, like, Mickey Gall got beat by Diego, but it was kind of like they were scrambling a lot throughout that Diego fight. Like, he stayed alive. In this fight, Perry was on top the whole time in this fight. It was dominating.
And one thing about Mike is when he hits you, even if it's not like he's trying to go fast with his punches, he's just like slow going, you know. When he hits you, you're going to move back just because of the way his punches hit. They push you back, and so every punch that hit on Gall, even when Gall would block, he'd step back and Gall would get thrown off balance. And so the other thing that people don't give Mike enough credit for, finally they're starting to give credit for his physique, but goddamn, that motherfucker is the strongest dude I've ever rolled with, and I've rolled with some strong dudes, and it's just, even when he's not trying, his strength, he'll just straight use strength, and it'll just out muscle anything that goes on. And Mickey was a black belt, and Mike's strength just completely steamrolled Mickey.
It seems he's starting to mix the physique with the timing and stuff. Like now he's understanding, okay, I can't just use my strength to pick up some of the top level guys. I gotta hit them, knock them off balance, and then get them near the cage, shoot under, and get them to the ground. Because he did that several times to Mickey in that fight to get him down. Like,
absolutely, Mike's super smart too.
He throws a lot of people off with the way he articulates himself. But you can tell when he's talking about like MMA and fighting and stuff, you can tell he knows what he's talking about, like 100%. But
all the information going on during the fight too, and he registers it. He knows what's going on in the fight. He knows what his opponent's doing. He was saying he knew what Mickey was doing in the fight, and he figured it out in the second round, and from there it completely dominated him.
Yeah, the codes and stuff, that the corner was saying, I watched that. That's incredible.
Smart man.
For a starting athlete like you, it had to be a pretty interesting time to join Jackson's when you did, when the biggest name in Jackson's left, and they left and was spreading all this hate towards the gym, and then the guy that takes you under his wing is the guy that gets pitted against him. Like that had to be a pretty insane time to join MMA.
Absolutely. And at that time when I was there, a few weeks after I had sparred with Mike, Jon was getting ready for his Gustafsson 2 fight. And when I was walking around with Leo. He was a boxer at Jackson Wing that Jon works with a lot. Yeah. And Jon came up to both of us. He was like, "Damn, man, you're pretty tall. How big are you?" And I was like, "Man, I'm 6'4". I was about 210 at the time. I was a little bit bigger. He was like, "Well, tomorrow let's get some work in." So from there, I started working with Jon Jones, and so he's been one of my mentors as well. And shout out to his whole family. Actually, his brother was there. His brother's a real good person. And so he kind of helped me get more into Jackson Wink up at the levels that he's at. And so I got to step in and spar with him in rotation with Christian Edwards, and then Leo would go in and give him some good boxing work. Leo's like 6'8", 280. I don't know how big he is. He's a monster, but yeah, he's a big old Russian, and he's a boxer. But then at the time it was really just me and Christian Edwards. Kong wasn't there, and a couple of the other big guys weren't there. So, and then Kobe Landers, he came in towards the end of camp, and he's a big body as well. He's an up and coming pro at the heavyweight and light heavyweight level. So it's just us three rotating in with Jon, that was for the Gustafson 2 fight. So that was a pretty cool experience as well.
Hell yeah. I got to ask the most annoying question, even when I fought that I hated. What did you feel in the rounds? Even like Mike Perry and Jon Jones, did you feel like there was progression? Did you feel like you're on that level or you could be on that level?
As far as Jon Jones, I mean, even like Mike will say the hardest guy he's ever sparred was Jon Jones, and I don't think anybody in the world will ever be on Jon Jones' level, not even close. The dude's a super freak. He's superhuman.
The whole family of brothers are all super athletes. Like,
and so I don't know. Jon Jones is just a different human, and so I don't think anybody will ever feel like they're even getting close on Jon Jones' level. But
I feel like it's like the next wave of athletes like you that pick up tips and tricks off of Jon Jones that are gonna be the ones that get that good though.
Absolutely, and it was fun. I got a lot of good sparring in with Jon. I got rounds and rounds and rounds in with him, and he wasn't going like super hard, but he wasn't going light either. Like I dropped a few times. I fell, and like spinning heel kicks to the ribs, and some lung shots and liver shots here and there. But he takes me down with pretty much ease. He's strong. He's a good wrestler. And he's long, and so he'll sit there and throw some combos, and the next thing you know, you're up in the air. And so that's the problem with Jon is his wrestling is just
he's so damn good. It's
ridiculous, and the fact that he could just sit there and pound anybody he goes against with his wrestling alone is just ridiculous. I mean, he took down Dan Hendo, who's an Olympic wrestler, like 8 times in their submission underground grappling match and just ragdolled him. So the fact that he did that to Olympic wrestlers is just ridiculous.
He threw DC around. He threw like everyone talks about the Ngannou matchup because I feel like MMA fans are fickle as fuck. Like they remember the last thing that's happened and they all think Ngannou's just going to run at him and just like he did against Rosenstrike or whatever. And I just think that is a terrible matchup for Ngannou. It's going to be the same thing as Stipe versus Ngannou. Like Jon's on another level. I want to see him fight DC at heavyweight or
that'd be cool.
Or Stipe at heavyweight. But I think Ngannou's kind of like the useless option at this point, except marketing wise, because I don't think they're on the same level at all.
Yeah, I don't think they are. Obviously, Ngannou is just a freak of nature, but Jon Jones has been fighting guys like that his whole life. Thiago Santos is basically built a lot like Francis. He's got a lot of strength and
way faster.
Jon Jones knows how to fight guys like that, and I feel like he played his game. He played the length game and tear apart Francis' legs and just pick him apart with length.
So when you started with the heart condition and stuff and you had to get surgery on it, how was your brother already training and fighting? Is that how you came to MMA?
Well, actually, so we grew up, we actually fought all the time, me and him, just and so we didn't have any jiu-jitsu gyms or any boxing gyms where we grew up in a smaller town south of San Antonio. So we kind of grew up boxing and doing jiu-jitsu. So by the time I stepped in the jiu-jitsu gym, I pretty much knew like what all the submissions and what all the positions were. I knew what side control mount. I knew what full guard, half guard. I knew most of the sweeps. I knew a lot of submissions from guard, from mount, from half guard. So I kind of knew a lot of stuff just because of having a twin brother growing up. We drilled everything. We wrestled every single day. We didn't even wrestle in high school. We didn't have wrestling in high school. So by the time we stepped in an MMA gym, after football, we already had we already kind of knew we were going to fight while we were playing football too. It was just wait until football was over, and we were just kind of use football, the D1 facilities, the weightlifting, all the training, everything that comes with it, the meal plan. And so with that, we gained like 30 pounds of muscle, and then he ended up staying with the programs 3 years. He stayed 2 years at Oklahoma State and then 1 year at Texas Tech. And so he got to use I only played football 1 year at Oklahoma State, but he got to use it a little bit more than me. But we were at Oklahoma State, and so we had finished some workouts, and about 2 days before the first game, they called me in after a heart test, and they were saying that they got some bad readings on EKG. And so when I went back there, they were saying, well, here's a whole list of shit that's wrong with your heart. And I was like, oh, damn. Here I am, 18 years old, like just about to start running out of the tunnel at the stadium, like thinking of big shit. And my brother's on the team, and they're telling me that I can't play anymore. And so I'm like, well, there's got to be something I can do. So I get the first heart surgery, try to fix it, whatever, and that shit fails. So that was like a 3-day procedure, and I was stuck in the hospital for a while. And so I lost like 20 pounds. And so it failed. And so I was talking to the team doctor, and he was like, well, you can try one more time and see if you can get freeze that node, the extra electrical node on your heart, and see if you can get rid of that. So they went in with like 4 tubes or whatever up in my sides right here, and they went up with tubes, and they went to try to freeze the heart. And every time the node was too close to the regular node that was there's a bad node and a good node. It's like 2 wires crossing. And if the wires cross, then the machine stops. And so they couldn't freeze that node. So the second procedure, they failed again. But they woke me up when the wires were still in me. And they're like, all right, we got to make sure you're good before we pull these out. So I just remember everything about them yanking those things out. They yanked them out. And so I fainted from it. But, yeah, that was the second procedure. And that he came in the next day and was like, well, I got some bad news, man. It failed again. So I was like, oh, shit, another failure. So at that point, I was like, all right, I'm not playing football anymore. It's whatever. And I'm probably not going to do anything athletic anymore if they can't clear me from here. So I was like, fuck, well, at least I kind of want to learn how to fight. So I'm going to go into jiu-jitsu gym. And so right after the second surgery, I went into the jiu-jitsu gym. As soon as my sutures healed, start training jiu-jitsu, because I've seen Joe Rogan, and I've seen some old people training jiu-jitsu. So I was like, fuck it, it's not that good. I'm gonna just train jiu-jitsu. So start training jiu-jitsu, and then I realized I get a call back, and they were like, hey, we have some other surgeon in Austin. He's like from Germany or someone. He's the one who started the Wolff-Parkinson's-White syndrome procedure, and he was like, he can do it if you fly out to Austin, and you can get all that stuff done in Texas and from Oklahoma City. And I was like, well, you know what, fuck it, I'll go do it, because I kind of wanted to fight. I was starting to learn how to fight, and I was starting to get an itch to compete again. It had been like a few months, and I was out of football. I was like, fuck. I was in college, not really doing much. So I was like, you know what, I'll go try it. Already had 2. So they get it done, and they actually succeeded. They succeeded getting the Wolff-Parkinson's-White syndrome removed, and so they got that removed. But I still had some scar tissue around my heart, so I couldn't play football. NCAA wouldn't clear me. And then I still have bicuspid aortic valve disease. And so the main artery that goes through the heart, if you cut it in half, it's shaped like a circle, right? And in most people's chamber, through like the tube, the main artery that goes through, they have 3 vessels that are inside that open and close, but mine only has 2. So it's easier for it to stay shut rather than if it's got like 3, because it opens and closes like that rather than just shut. So eventually, like down the road when I'm like 50 or something, they're going to have to replace that. And 50s or 60s is what they were saying. And so I don't have to really worry about that too much. If something does happen with that, they usually just go in and put a stent in it and open it up. But
my dad has a bunch of stents from having heart issues and stuff. Yeah. But this is the incredible thing to me. How through all the surgeries, all the failure surgeries and negative results, and then through the NCAA not telling you that you could compete there, how did your mindset still go, okay, I'm gonna fight, like cool, I'm gonna fight, like
well, yeah, that's kind of what I kind of had to tell myself, like as soon as I figured all that stuff out, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna become a fighter. And so I guess this is just what fighters gonna have to fucking deal with. I read a lot of things about fighters having like a bunch of torn knees, a bunch of torn shoulders, and their careers. So some of them have like 5 torn knees and 5 torn shoulders by the time they're done with all that shit. So I was like reading about all that stuff, and I was like, man, if some of these guys can get through that, I can get through some of this. I feel fine. So if I can just see some doctors and get some clearance, and I should be good, And so I went through hundreds of heart tests, just kept.
I'm sure that they were like very sketchy about it at first.
Yeah. And then when I was a baby, when I was real little, I had both my lungs collapse. So I have 2 giant scars on my side where they just like plugged in tubes and aired up my lungs back because they flattened and they were flat, so they had to air them back up. And so that's another thing that's kind of, I don't know if it's going to cause any issues in the future, but hopefully not. But that's another more scars I've got all over my body from internal surgeries. So.
Well, hopefully not. I mean, hopefully the fight simulation in the gym of sparring kind of like tested your body enough to see if it could handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I got twin brother, man. I'll never have as much fights as I've had with my twin brother. I promise you. As far as fist fights go with him, I've gotten in hundreds just alone with him. And so, is just growing up with a twin brother, a lot of people don't realize the amount of. If you're competitive, some people have twin brothers and they don't fight, but yeah, as far as me and my brother, we fight all the time. So we're pretty physical, and we're both big dudes, and we're both about the same exact size. So we like to push each other. And so we grew up fighting, and like I said, doing all that jiu-jitsu stuff. So then when we would actually fight, we knew how to fight. And so that was also another issue. But it was also good because we would stop. We knew when we were about to hurt each other. So like if someone got busted, we would stop, or if someone was about to tap, we knew when to tap. And so when we would fight, we'd actually throw jiu-jitsu stuff in there, and kicks and knees. And most people, when they fight, they just try to box and street fight, and they don't. But we were street fighting and doing all the MMA shit when we were like 8 years old. So that's kind of where we started. And we just both fell in love with it, and he's about to make his debut, and I'm looking to have at least 10 amateur boxing matches. I'm trying to get a lot of amateur boxing matches before I get one last amateur MMA fight, because when I go pro in MMA, I plan to go pro in boxing right when that happens. Well,
what's your goal there? Like, what's is it just about keeping both lanes open, like both options?
Yeah. I plan on keeping both options open for sure. I plan on trying to climb. Man, I've sparred with multiple ESPN boxers that are my weight, and I've put them away. So I feel pretty confident in my boxing. And so I just haven't had a chance to showcase it. I've had 3 fights, and I haven't been hit once with punches. And so I've landed about 100. So I feel pretty confident in my striking. I just haven't had a chance to showcase it in a boxing match. I trained with Orland Norris for 2 years. He was my first striking coach when I moved to Lubbock, actually. And
is that what you lean towards?
Oh,
like striking? Okay.
Yeah, he fought Mike Tyson. He fought Klitschko. He was heavyweight WBO champion of the world at one point, and so he was my mentor. He just closed his gym down. I still talk to him a lot, though, and he still helps me out. And so he was the kind of one that helped me with my striking. Him and an old boxing coach named Johnny Melendez. He's the old school boxing coach, man. He's been in the game for 40 plus years, and he was the one who helped me with my boxing. So from there, I've also been training jiu-jitsu a lot. I've been at like multiple different jiu-jitsu gyms, but I've finally found a home at Base Jiu-Jitsu, and shout out Gabe Hernandez. He's going to be listening to the podcast for sure, but he's the one who helped my ground game a ton. And Mike Perry actually trained at Base Jiu-Jitsu as well for this camp. Mike trained there about four or five times for the camp. He wanted to just go against some jiu-jitsu guys, just
fine tune everything.
Yeah. And so Mike went in there, and Mike did his thing, messed up at all of us, and then he walked out confident as ever, and that's all it takes, man. And so that's what Mike needed. And because I dragged him to the jiu-jitsu gym, I was like, man, you got to come over here. There's some good rolls, man. Just go light. It's just good looks against the jiu-jitsu guy. And so I got him over there. He enjoyed it. And so Gabe, open arms as always, took him in and helped all of us out. But I've been with Gabe for about 2 years now, and he's been my main ground game coach, and he's awesome. And
that's awesome.
Done, pro grappling matches under him. I'm supposed to have pro grappling match for Fight to Win, but that shit got canceled out. I dislocated my elbow. I don't know if you can see the bruising. I'm going to try to get in the camera, but it's all bruised right here and then inside the bicep and on the tricep. It popped out backwards, and I had to yank it out, so I can only extend it about that far.
No, that's not good.
So, yeah, I got about 2 or 3 weeks. Hopefully, I get my MRI tomorrow. Hopefully, I'm clear on any tears. No breaks. I think there was a small chip in the elbow, but that should heal up. So,
Well, hopefully there's no tears, and good luck on that. What I'm going to ask you, between Jon Jones and Mike Perry, with thinking of what you can say on air.
Yeah. But I'll say what I'll say. And I'll keep to myself. Don't worry about that. You can ask.
Okay. What is the craziest story for each that you have personally that you've went through with Jon Jones, and the craziest story that you've went through with Mike Perry that you can tell?
Well, I'm gonna say I'm not gonna tell the craziest stories. I'm just gonna go there.
The craziest stories that
they're
tell.
Both personal friends, so I've had some crazy instances with both of them. They're not just training partners; they're actually real homies, and so I've we've been out together and we've partied and all that. So, but the craziest story
that you can tell.
Shoot,
that's fine.
With Mike. So in my parents' backyard, there's like this 20-foot tall like column, right? And it's like unclimbable. And so Mike's like he's a gorilla. And so there's a pool in there too, and the pool's like 5 feet deep. It's not that deep. And so I look back and I see Mike, and he's climbed on top of the pole, all the way on top. And I'm like, there's no way he climbed up on top of that. And so next thing you know, he's like, hey, pull out your cameras. So we pull out our cameras, and he just jumps off that thing into the pool. And so that's one of the crazier stories. I'm trying to think of some other crazy stories that I can share. But
there's a lot of things that aren't shareable, especially with fighters.
Yeah, I saw some guy disrespect his girlfriend once. That wasn't good. That was terrible. Also,
I love the story.
Thing to him, by the way. He didn't physically touch him, but the dude got scared.
I love the story that Mike Perry said about the two guys watching him take a piss in the bathroom at the bar. That story cracked me the fuck up, because he's like, I'm just trying to get through them. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah. Mike's funny, man. He's not going to shy away from any conflict. He definitely enjoys it. And he's not one to confrontation. He's not one to shy away from it. A lot of fighters, they like to fight, but they don't like the confrontation that comes with it. With other fighters, and if they see him in person, well, what if I see this guy? What if I say, Mike don't give a fuck. If he sees that guy, whatever. If that guy's gonna say something, Mike's gonna beat the shit out of him, or whatever happens. But Mike don't care about what he says.
Yeah, but to note, he also doesn't it seems at least he doesn't go out and search for the trouble, because a lot of people have that perception of him the hardcore street guy, and he does. You can tell if you actually follow the sport, he doesn't. A lot crazy on camera, man. And people press him because he's famous, so that shows the worst side of him. That's the worst representation of Mike Perry, and it's not who he actually is, but it is real.
I think it helps his publicity. It helps everything that comes with him, and it makes him come off as a real person rather than just someone that's shying away from his feelings or how he feels. No, Mike's going to sit there and he's going to say how he feels. But you're right. A lot of reporters do kind of push his buttons and ask him the wrong questions and then get him fired up. And then obviously he's going to say some shit that's on his mind. If you ask him a controversial question, he's going to answer with 100%. He's not going to sit there and shy away from how he feels about the person or the situation. And
right.
So that's what happens when they mention Nate Diaz.
I watch Ariel Helwani's interviews to know not what to do to piss off fighters. Because he will ask the most come on, the dude hasn't posted about his ex-wife in 3 months, and that's what you're going to ask him. He doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't even talk about it to any of us either, for good reason. That
Yeah.
part of his life's completely over. He's on a better chapter now, and so I think he's happy.
My girlfriend, or my wife, sorry, fiance, is obsessed with Perry. And like, I was like telling her I was talking to you, and I was like, and she was like, oh my God. Like, she was freaking out. Like, she was like, this is insane. Like, I'm like, it's not Mike Perry. Like,
Yeah, it's not Mike.
And she's
but
like,
I usually am with Mike. I'll probably be with him later today. But yeah, he's one of my best friends now. I'm one of his. I'd like to say I'm one of his best friends too in Lubbock. So yeah, we've had some pretty good experience, some good training sessions. You know, I've got some good stories with him. I'm trying to think of some crazy ones I'll share as the podcast rolls on. I'm trying to think of some crazy Jon Jones stories as well. Actually, we were at a bar one time. I was out with Jon Jones, and this little guy came out of nowhere, and it was like this old dude, and he shoves Jon like real hard. Jon's looking down on him. Jon like picks him up, and they're like acting like they're gonna fight, and I'm like, oh shit. So I go over and run over to Jon. You know, it's just me and him in that area, and so I'm like, hey Jon, like let's get the fuck out of here. You know, I don't think this is the best thing for you. And he keeps pushing the dude, and they both look at me at the same time, and they're like, nah, we're just fucking with you. And so it was funny, but the little guy was like, I'm gonna shoot you and all this stuff. So I was starting to get a little bit
that's like
yeah, it's
that's
so
Jon Jones's humor when he fought Anthony Rumble Johnson, right before, like, because he had that big fight with DC, and then they scheduled him against Rumble, and they went at each other like they were gonna fight, and Dana like had to jump between them.
Yeah. Jon, he's a character, man. Sometimes you don't know what you're gonna get, but he's definitely a good dude. I mean, I love him and the things that he does. Especially recently, he's been doing some really good stuff in the community. Shout out to him. I think he's really got everything in line with where he wants to be in his career, especially with money and everything. I'm glad that he's holding out. It'll be good for us up and coming fighters. We're not going to be the ones that have to do all that. He's doing all the dirty work for us. So, I mean, eventually when I get up in that setting, hopefully I'll be in the UFC. I'm almost positive I will. But if everything stays, you know, healthy and everything's in line, then I'll be up at that level. So, but shout out to Jon for helping the fighters get increased pay. I feel like it's been long overdue. You know, you look at the boxing numbers versus MMA numbers, you can kind of definitely tell there's a difference in there.
Every sport. Yeah, and this is it's one of the 5 main sports now on ESPN, and they still didn't bump the pay up.
Yeah, and Conor McGregor is probably the most known athlete in the world right now, and you know, I mean, he's getting paid. I can't say he's not, but by the UFC, I don't think.
Yeah, but let's also mark that he is the most paid UFC fighter of all time, but he made way more money off of his own businesses.
Yeah,
and boxing. Like I tell you right now, Proper 12 brings him more money per year than fighting does. Like, is that like 100%
higher than Jack Daniels actually last year, which is crazy.
Yeah, just it's nuts that even like Khabib in the international perspective is giant and getting highly underpaid. A lot of guys are getting underpaid. It's crazy.
Khabib got Russia's most notable athlete 2nd year in a row recently, so that's another.
Yeah, I mean, think about how big Ronda Rousey was when she was out. Khabib has way more followers than she does, so like he's huge. People don't realize how big he is around the world.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. It's nuts.
So I don't know what the state of things are out there, like with the COVID and commissions and stuff.
It's pretty chill over here. We're in Texas, so no one really cares about the government laws around here. So I haven't seen too many face masks or too many people.
Yeah, I just seen Brendan Schaub got tested positive for COVID because he went and did shows in San Antonio.
Yeah. Don't get it twisted though, man. The hospitals right now are filling up all over Texas because of it. But I'm staying safe. I'm inside. I'm only hanging around like 2 or 3 people if I do. Just in my main group. So,
with your injuries and the COVID and stuff, when do you think you're gonna get another fight or boxing match or whatever?
Well, I've started training again actually. It's just when I throw my left, this elbow is the one that dislocated. When I throw it, this is as far as I can extend it, you see? So that's as far as I can extend it. So, but each day it gets like a centimeter opened up. So eventually, probably about a week or 2, I'll probably be ready to roll. But as far as boxing matches, man, I'll take an amateur boxing match right now. I don't really care. I've been begging every promoter on Facebook for any amateur boxing match openings up to like 230 pounds. I don't even care. It's amateur boxing. I just want to get experience in the ring, man, because there's not too many MMA organizations in Texas, and a lot of amateur fighters are having to pay their own travel. And I'm not really going to fight MMA and pay my own travel somewhere like Florida or somewhere. I saw Florida had an opening. I'm not going to drive 24 hours with no travel pay, and fight for free. So I'm waiting on the COVID stuff to open up so I can at least get sponsor money and some stuff for amateur fighting to make it worth my while. But until then, I'm definitely getting better. It's just traveling 17 or at least 10 hours is like the shortest route for free just to fight is kind of hard right now. But I'll definitely drive for free and fight boxing anywhere. I just want to get in there and get my record up and get some footage out and just get some experience. That way, when I do go pro, I can go pro in boxing. I really want to go pro in boxing a lot. I feel like I could go pro in boxing right now. That's just how I feel. I feel like I could. But my wrestling is getting better. That's the one thing I'm still working on is my wrestling. That's why I've been at the wrestling gym so much. But when I get my wrestling in line, I feel like my boxing, my kickboxing, my jiu-jitsu is in line. I just need to get my wrestling in line, and then I think it'd be ready to go pro.
Oh yeah.
But I'd like to at least, like I said, 1 or 2 more MMA amateur fights. But I am definitely going to go pro by 2022. So 2021, I'll probably, just fight amateurs. I want to do some Golden Gloves tournaments. I'm going to try to do the National Golden Gloves tournament. I feel pretty confident in that. And so if by chance I do stay in boxing, me and my brother have talked about, waiting for the Olympic trials, but that'd be another 4 years from now, 3.5. And so I don't think I'd want to stay amateurs for that long. But we'd still only be 25 at the time. So still going pro at 25 is not going to be too bad. But because we're both twins. So I feel like we're taking the right steps. We're training with the right people. We got the right, I think we got the right path going. I'm trying to stay slow on the fights. I'd rather my knowledge be up here when I step in the ring versus a guy's knowledge here than me being too antsy, me thinking I'm good just because I train with Mike Perry, Jon Jones. I know I'm not those guys, so I can't get that in my head that, I'm those guys. And so, but it does help. And so that's why I feel confident in where I'm at, and I feel confident about anybody I'll go against at the amateur level, especially.
It's a good, like you said, it's a good thing to know you're not those guys, but at the same time, when it comes time to walk out, because I fought amateur too, and when it's time to walk out, it's honestly a good thing to feel like you are those guys though, because when I walked out, I was like in my head, I was like, I'm indestructible. Like no matter what this dude does to me, I'm gonna fucking kill him. And
absolutely.
It definitely helped because when he started hitting me, I was like, I panicked a little because it was my first fight, but it got me through, like me going, oh, I'm not going to lose, got me through that adversity.
And then you get hit, and then you're like, these punches don't really hurt. You can't feel shit. So then you're like, fuck it. Now all I got worried about is keeping my oxygen in my lungs because that's the only thing that I care about in a fight. I don't give a fuck about a punch, I'm worried. Obviously, I don't want to get punched because of the points. So I'm parrying, I'm moving. But as far as like people are like, oh, you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna feel that those hurt. Nah, like I'm too.
Not when you. Not when you grew up street fighting your whole life.
Yeah, I got hit with a illegal elbow one fight, and it was a dirty flying elbow. The dude just jumped across, boom, hit me clean, and I just remember getting hit by it, and it split me. It cut my nose. I didn't get hit with a punch, but that fight, but he hit me with the elbow, and I just remember like I stepped back and I was like, damn, that didn't really hurt too bad, like I just got hit with a rear flying elbow, probably the hardest strike that he could throw. At this point, he's winded, he's gassed. His punches weren't landing at all. So his punches were real slow, so I wasn't really too concerned.
And an amateur, just to clear up for like casual viewers of MMA, like amateur, you're not allowed knees or elbows to the head, right?
Yeah. Elbows and knees are allowed in New Mexico, and knees are allowed in Texas and Oklahoma, but elbows are not allowed in Texas or Oklahoma. And at the time I was fighting in Oklahoma, so I got hit by elbow. I was like, what the fuck? So I had to.
Yeah, there was a bunch of crazy rules.
Yeah.
Like for amateur.
Every state's different. So, man, a lot of refs don't recite the rules whenever you fight. So some kids will go out there throwing elbows and knees, and some kids will be like, what the fuck? And the ref won't say anything. And before you know it, some kid's knocked out with a knee or teeth.
Yeah, when I fought, we weren't even allowed to kick to the head, and it like fucked me up. Like, because I was like, the whole time I was like, I fought at 265 when I did fight. Now I walk around at 205. But I'm like a long, lengthy guy, so I was like, I'm gonna go out there as a heavyweight and I'm gonna head kick this dude and shock everybody. Yeah. And then I get there, and the whole camp I'm training head kicks, and then I get there, and the referee is going over the rules, and he's like, no kicks to the head, no, like, and I was like, like what am I supposed to do? Like,
I've seen some states are making kids wear 8-ounce gloves now and 6-ounce gloves with shin guards.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I've seen them wear shin guards. I've seen them wear headgear. Sometimes, like, it's like
I won't fight in those states. I'm not fighting.
Headgear's worse for your brain.
Yeah,
way worse.
You can't move that shit.
And the science behind a helmet concussion, like the repercussion in any helmet type thing.
After one football practice, I had way more headaches than I've ever had in my MMA career.
Yeah, you know about it because of football. A lot of the people that don't really follow sports don't understand the difference. Like they see someone getting punched in the face and thinks it's way worse than football. But the repercussion in the bouncing around of the brain in headgear or a helmet does so much more damage. When I used to spar with headgear on, I used to get rocked every punch. Like, I mean, even jabs, I would be like, what the fuck? Like, and I took it off, and I was like, I never am using that again. Like, ever again.
Jackson Wink, we don't use headgear. With Mike, don't use headgear, period. I remember I asked him one time, we were over there. I knew he didn't wear headgear, but I was like, hey, bro, you getting close to a fight. You want to wear this shit? And he's like, fuck no. So, yeah, that was his answer on the headgear situation. But, we don't ever really spar with headgear, mainly because I like slipping punches. I like being, like, right there. If you have a headgear, it adds about an inch or two, so you can't slip them. And then your whole head turns, and then your neck's fucking bent or some shit.
And if you're wearing headgear with small gloves, it gets you cut because it slips in.
And the last time I wore a headgear, I wore that stupid fucking one with the bar, the metal bars or whatever, and it's like coated with the leather, and it's the expensive boxing ones, that those like pro guys wear. So I was wearing it, and I got jabbed one time, and that fucking thing went straight into my nose and broke it in half. So now I got a big old crook on my nose from it. So, yeah, that was strictly from a headgear and a jab.
So. I've heard of more injuries from headgear than not headgear. Just like Daniel Cormier recently, he was on ESPN, and he had like a giant 4-inch gash in his eye because a punch slid into the headgear. And I'm just like, when are people going to stop using it? Like,
same with stitching on gloves too. A lot of these MMA gloves have stitching that poke out like on the edges right here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, John got cut open from Gustafson strictly from the stitching. It slid past, and that stitch caught, just ripped him open on the eyelid.
Yeah, that first fight was crazy.
Yeah, I watched a lot of that one because I was trying to mimic Gustafson for John's camp. So I remember all that fight.
What's your opinion on the MMA gloves? Like, did you see how Trevor Whitman created those MMA gloves that keep your hands like this so you can make a full punch instead of being stuck like this?
Yeah, I'm telling you, like, when I'm sure whenever you get them hands taped, it's hard to fucking squeeze,
you can't throw a punch correctly. Like, it's almost like there's no curve to your wrist. Like, it's stuck like that.
Yeah.
And it hurts when you land, honestly. I've hurting my wrist and my hand way more often than just in sparring than hurting the other guy that I'm hitting because I can't.
Yeah, I'd like to see them do away with like wrist taping. I'd like to keep the wrists more flimsy. Personally, my idea, I don't know. I just think that it'd be cool to have wrist locks and some more play with the wrist and submission games, or really anything. You can parry more. You can turn your wrist, because when your gloves are taped, you can't smack the hand. You have to fucking move your whole forearm out of the way. And so sometimes that creates an issue, or sometimes when you're going for a choke and you can't open up your hand all the way, so it's bent and you're trying to go in, but instead of going underneath, you're like bent trying to drive your fucking knuckles in your chin, and so it'll never work. And so
I've never understood the layout of the gloves, especially in the UFC. Like, they're the worst ones.
Yeah.
They will literally keep your shit like bent out. Like,
it makes sense to throw like open-handed and opened out.
That's why a lot of guys will throw the overhands like and just wing them like that, because that's how the gloves keep their hands. So it's like they're like, this is the most viable punch to land. Like,
I'm not gonna say any names, but there's someone that throws punches with these knuckles right here.
Yeah, I've seen a few. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I'd feel about landing with those knuckles. I feel like my hand would eventually break. But
yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Shit, man. I think we covered most of it, honestly. Is there any other questions you had about Mike or John or any of those guys? I know that's some pretty interesting stuff, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting, but I also understand your place as like a friend, where you can't really like, it's got to stay to what's going on in the sport, like not like personal, because that can fuck up your relationship.
Yeah, I'd like to share some personal stories, but I'm gonna wait until I talk to Mike a little bit more about what I can say about some of the shit that's
yeah, that I think that's the last person I would want knocking at my door like, yo, you told that motherfucking story, dude. Like,
nah, Mike's cool as fuck though, honestly. He's real chill. A lot of people don't understand that like he's actually a pretty fucking funny dude. And yeah, he's a pit bull, man, but he's funny. Like, he's not like, oh, I'm gonna fuck this dude up all the time. No, he's
some Mai Tais.
Yeah, he's a funny ass dude, and he's fun to be around. So it actually made training pretty fun when we were training together. He's gonna start training here pretty soon. He said he wants to start fighting already. He's already feeling good.
Yeah, I heard him say something about wanting to fight in August, and if they called him to fill in for Fight Island, any of the cards, he would go.
Yeah. He likes Fight Island, but it'd have to be the right fight, I believe, for Fight Island, just because he was looking at all that shit that all the flying in and quarantine and all that, and all these rules, and it'd be like a 4-day stint just to fucking get there and off the plane and out of the hotel. So who knows about what he's gonna do with Fight Island, but
and he don't like those international taxes.
Yeah, fuck that. And he likes Vegas a lot, so I think Vegas is pretty close over here. It's like an hour plane flight from where we're at. So he just gets off the flight, and he's ready to fucking throw some hands. So it's good for him. And I think
Best
that he
scenario.
likes the position in Lubbock that where he's at. He's with his girlfriend. She's got some cool friends that keep him. They all keep him entertained. They have a group of friends that all party and they have fun. And Mike comes over all the time, and we party and do all that shit. So I think he's in a good spot. He definitely wants to move back to Florida though. Just because it's fucking Lubbock, Texas is. It's pretty flat out here. There's nothing much. But as
It
far
sounds
as
like mainly though his move is based off of bodies. Like he wants to go work with like Yoel and like
yeah,
live
yeah,
in that part of Florida, like before
yeah,
that. So
hell
I
yeah,
mean, it's
especially
understandable.
the strength of Yoel will be good for him, especially if Mike wants to get up to 185, is what he was saying. So I think that Mike can handle himself at 185. He's fought some tough dudes. He's strong. He's strong enough as all the 185ers. The only thing that would be a little bit disadvantage is his height, but he's proven he can fight guys like Mickey Gall that are tall and get inside their length. And so I think that he'd be able to hold himself fine against most 185ers in the UFC.
I think he would hold him. I think he would hold himself fine. I'm not gonna try to piss anyone off and kick, but like I think he would have a harder time point wise. Like judge wise, I think if it goes to the judges, he's gonna
He'd
be
have to be
behind.
working.
Yeah,
Yeah, he'd
but
have to be.
it's gonna be a dogfight till it gets there. Like
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to point fight against the 185ers, which would be an issue. But I don't think Mike's ever gone into a fight wanting to point fight anyway. So I think that's a good thing. He'd like
no,
to get.
but he's seen it in the Mickey Gall fight though. He
Yep.
realized he
Yeah.
definitely realized, okay, if I land this takedown, this is capping me this fight. Like, because that's what he did at the end of both of those last rounds, and it definitely made him look way more dominant than ever before, in my opinion, especially with the ground. All right. Is there any last thing that you want to say? Anything? Because I know you don't have a fight schedule right now, so I don't really know what to say.
I'm pretty good right now. Just staying healthy, healing up with some of these knocks and injuries. My next bouts are probably going to be a boxing bout. I'll get some pro grappling matches here and there on Flow Grappling. They'll be live streamed for Fight to Win. Seth Daniels, he's a cool dude. And I'll be training with Base, and then at Results Wrestling with my guy Sam, Coach Sam Estrada. Shout out to him. I didn't mention him in the podcast, but he was also a key in Mike Perry's camp as well. He owns the facility that we trained at, and so he let us in there 24/7 whenever we wanted. So shout out to Sam, and then shout out to Gabe as well, Coach Gabe at Base. I know he's watching. And then as far as striking goes, just get my striking with Mike Perry. So Platinum Martial Arts is actually going to become a real thing one day, and so hopefully it'll be pretty fucking sick.